Hello, welcome back to another video. Please consider giving us a like, and let's get started. Sherlock Holmes and the Raven's Shadow. The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of 221B Baker Street, casting delicate patterns on the polished wooden floor. Sherlock Holmes sat in his customary armchair, engrossed in a complex chemical analysis, his keen eyes darting between the intricate apparatus before him and the pages of his latest scientific journal. Dr. John Watson reclined nearby, thumbing through a medical journal, the peaceful routine of their shared quarters, a testament to their enduring partnership. A sharp knock at the door disrupted the quiet morning. Mrs. Hudson entered with her usual grace, her expression a blend of curiosity and concern. "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, there's someone here to see you. They insisted it was urgent." Holmes glanced up, his interest piqued. "Very well. Mrs. Hudson, please have them wait a moment while we finish our morning activities." Moments later, the door opened to reveal a tall, distinguished man whose presence commanded immediate attention. He was impeccably dressed in a dark suit, his hair neatly combed and his demeanor exuding both authority and urgency. It was none other than Moff Holmes, Sherlock's elder brother, renowned for his unparalleled intellect and significant influence within the British government. Mycroft Sherlock greeted him with a nod, rising to his feet. "To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit at this hour?" Mycroft wasted no time, stepping into the room with a purposeful stride. "Sherlock Watson, I require your assistance with a matter of national importance. Recent developments have raised significant concerns regarding the security of classified governmental documents." Watson set aside his journal, leaning forward with genuine concern. "What sort of developments?" Mycroft took a seat, his expression serious. "A series of anonymous letters have been sent to high-ranking officials within the Admiralty and the Foreign Office. The letters contain veiled threats and demands for concessions that could severely compromise our naval strategies and international alliances. The content suggests a well-organized group with intimate knowledge of our security protocols." Holmes's eyes sparkled with interest. "Anonymous letters, you say. Have you identified any patterns or potential suspects thus far?" Moff shook his head. "The letters are meticulously crafted to obscure their origins. They reference historical conspiracies and employ literary devices that make them difficult to trace. Our internal investigations have yielded no leads, as the correspondence appears to be handled with the utmost discretion and sophistication." Holmes approached the large oak desk, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. "Allow me to examine the letters. Sometimes the smallest detail can unravel the most intricate mysteries." Mycroft handed Holmes a neatly folded envelope, its seal bearing an intricate crest, a crescent moon entwined with a serpent. "This is one of the more recent correspondences. We believe it's linked to a faction known as the Veiled Order, a secretive group rumored to have ties both within and outside government circles." Holmes carefully opened the envelope, his sharp eyes scanning the elegant yet cryptic handwriting. "Interesting. The use of allegory and symbolism suggests a deep understanding of both literature and psychological manipulation. These are not mere threats. They are calculated attempts to instill fear and uncertainty among our officials." Watson observed Holmes's meticulous examination. "What do you deduce from the language used?" Holmes. "The references to historical conspiracies indicate a desire to evoke a sense of inevitability and fate." Holmes explained his mind, already weaving connections. "The serpent symbolizes deceit and transformation, while the crescent moon represents change. Together, they suggest a transformative deception aimed at altering our strategic stance." Mycroft nodded thoughtfully. "Exactly. We suspect that the Veiled Order is attempting to destabilize our naval capabilities to gain leverage in international negotiations. The timing coincides with recent diplomatic tensions, making the repercussions potentially severe." Holmes folded the letter carefully, his expression one of resolute determination. "We must act swiftly, Watson. I need you to assist Moff in gathering all available intelligence on the recipients of these letters. Mycroft, please provide access to all relevant documents and security protocols. We must identify any commonalities or vulnerabilities that could lead us to the orchestrators of this conspiracy as Watson and Amoff set about their tasks. Holmes took a moment to reflect on the gravity of the situation. The involvement of Mycroft underscored the significance of the matter, indicating that the stakes were indeed high. The collaboration between the brothers, each with their unique strengths, was a formidable combination against the shadowy threats that loomed over the British government. Later that afternoon, Holmes and Watson convened. In the sitting room, the air thick with anticipation. Papers and reports were strewn across the table, each one a potential clue in unraveling the mystery of the veiled order, from what I can gather. Mycroft began, his voice steady and precise. The recipients of these letters hold key positions that, if compromised, could grant the veiled order unprecedented control over our naval operations and diplomatic strategies. We need to map out their connections and identify any unusual patterns in their professional and personal lives. Watson nodded, his medical training lending him a unique perspective on human behavior. I agree, it might also be worthwhile to investigate any recent changes in their routines or associations. Stress or external pressures could make them more susceptible to manipulation. Holmes tapped his fingers thoughtfully. Indeed, Mycroft, have there been any recent personnel changes or notable absences among these officials? Mycroft consulted his notes. There have been a few instances of unexpected promotions and reassignments, but nothing that directly links to the current crisis. However, Edward Marsh, a senior naval strategist, was recently reassigned to a new department. Without much explanation, his expertise makes him a valuable target. Holmes's eyes narrowed in focus. Edward Marsh could be a key figure. We must ascertain the reasons behind his reassignment and whether it was influenced by external pressures. Additionally, we should look into his recent interactions and any potential adversaries who might benefit from destabilizing his position. As the day turned to evening, Holmes and Watson delved deeper into their investigation, piecing together the intricate web of connections that bound the recipients of the threatening letters. The meticulous nature of their work was a testament to Holmes's unparalleled deductive skills and Watson's unwavering support. Finally, as twilight descended upon London, Moff returned to Baker Street, his expression mix of concern and resolve. Holmes, Watson, we've uncovered significant lead. Edward Marsh had a meeting with a foreign diplomat 2 nights ago. The details of the meeting are classified, but preliminary information suggests it involved discussions that could compromise our naval intelligence. Holmes stood, his mind already racing through potential scenarios. This confirms our suspicions. The veiled order is actively seeking to manipulate our international relations to their advantage. We must intercept any further communications and prevent them from achieving their objectives. Mycroft placed a hand on Holmes's shoulder, a rare gesture of camaraderie from the stoic elder brother. I knew I could rely on you. Sherlock, the Crown trusts you implicitly to safeguard our national interests. Proceed with caution, and may your brilliance illuminate the darkest corners of this conspiracy. As Moff departed, Holmes and Watson exchanged a determined glance. The path ahead was fraught with danger and deception, but with their combined intellects and unwavering resolve, they were prepared to confront the shadows that threatened to engulf the British government in the quiet aftermath of Mycroft's departure. Holmes gazed thoughtfully out the window, the London skyline, a silhouette against the fading light. The game is afoot, Watson. Let us proceed with all due haste and precision. The veiled order seeks to manipulate from the shadows, but we shall bring their machinations into the light. Watson stood beside him, a steadfast ally in the face of uncertainty. Together, Holmes, as always, the following morning, the atmosphere at 221B Baker Street was thick with urgency. Sherlock Holmes sat at his cluttered desk, the dossier Mycroft had provided spread out before him. Dr. John Watson reviewed the contents meticulously, his medical precision aiding in the organization of the myriad details. MOF's concerns are valid, Holmes, Watson remarked, pointing to a particular section of the dossier. These letters aren't random acts of intimidation. There's a pattern here. Specific references to naval strategies and diplomatic alliances. Holmes nodded, his eyes never leaving the documents. Indeed, Watson. The language employed suggests just a sophisticated understanding of our naval operations. This is no ordinary conspiracy. It's meticulously crafted to undermine our strategic positioning. Mrs. Hudson entered, with a fresh pot of tea, setting it gently on the table. Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, you've been at this all morning. Perhaps a short break would do you good. Holmes glanced, up briefly, offering a thin smile. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson. Your concern is noted. As they resumed their annal, Inspector Lathard arrived, his expression grave. Holmes, Watson, we've reviewed the Admiral's internal logs. There are no signs of forced entry or unauthorized access. It appears the perpetrator had legitimate clearance to handle these documents. Holmes leaned back, steepling his fingers thoughtfully. So we're dealing with an insider or someone with intimate knowledge of our security protocols. Mycroft, have there been any recent personnel changes or unusual activities within the Admiralty? Mycroft entered the room, his presence commanding attention. Yes, there have been a few anomalies. Edward Marsh, a senior naval strategist, was recently reassigned to a new department without a clear explanation. His expertise makes him a valuable asset, but his sudden movement raises suspicions. Watson raised an eyebrow. Edward Marsh. He's been instrumental in developing our latest naval tactics. His reassignment seems abrupt. Holmes tapped a finger on the dossier. Precisely. Let us consider the possibility that Marsh's relocation was orchestrated to provide access to sensitive information. We need to investigate his background and recent activities. Elrod nodded. We've also identified a series of encrypted communications between Marsh and an unknown correspondent. Attempts to decrypt these messages have so far been unsuccessful. Holmes stood abruptly, moving to the window to gaze out over the bustling streets of London. Encryption is a layer of protection, but not an insurmountable one. Watson, procure access to the latest cryptographic techniques. We must break through this barrier. Watson made a note, his mind already racing with the technical challenges ahead. I'll get on it immediately. Turning back to Mycroft, Holmes spoke. Within resolve, Mycroft, coordinate with the Admiral's IT department. We need full access to Marsh's communications and any surveillance footage from his office. The answers lie within his interactions. Mycroft bowed slightly. As you wish, Sherlock. I'll ensure the necessary resources are made available. As the day progressed home, and Watson delved deeper into Edward Marsh's professional and personal life. They interviewed colleagues, scrutinized his past projects, and mapped out his connections within the Admiralty. Each conversation revealed subtle inconsistencies and unspoken tensions, painting a picture of a man under immense pressure. One afternoon, Holmes and Watson found themselves at the office of Captain Henry Walters, Marsh's immediate superior. The captain was a stoic man, respected for his discipline and unwavering loyalty to the Admiralty. Captain Walters. Holmes greeted him cordially. Thank you for agreeing to speak with. Walters nodded, his expression guarded. What can I do for you, Mr. Holmes? Holmes produced a photograph of Edward Marsh. We're conducting an investigation into recent security breaches and personnel changes. Understand Marsh's reassignment is of particular interest. Walters glanced at the photo, then back at Holmes. Marsh's reassignment was unexpected. Even to me, he is highly valued, and his expertise is unparalleled. If there's an issue, I was not made aware of it. Watson interjected. Has Marsh mentioned any personal or professional difficulties recently? Any changes in behavior? Walters hesitated before replying. He's been under considerable stress. Yes, his department has been pushing the boundaries of our naval capabilities, and there have been disagreements on methodologies, but that's nothing out of the ordinary in our line of work. Holmes studied Walters intently, and his interactions outside of work. Any affiliations or associations that might be of interest? Walters shook his head. Not that I'm aware of. Marsh is a dedicated officer, though sometimes overly ambitious. If there's something more, I'm afraid I don't know. Leaving Walters's office with more questions than answers, Holmes and Watson reconvened at Baker Street. The investigation was proving to be more complex than anticipated with each lead, opening new avenues of inquiry. Moff's dossier mentioned encrypted communications. Watson noted, have we made any progress on deciphering them? Holmes tapped his chin thoughtfully. Not yet. But with your expertise, Watson, I'm confident we can break through in the meantime. We should continue to monitor Marsh's movements and interactions closely as evening descended upon London. Holmes sat alone in his armchair, the flickering fur light, casting long shadows across the room. The case had grown more intricate, but Holmes's determination remained unshaken. He knew that within the labyrinth of political intrigue and hidden motives, the truth was waiting to be uncovered. Just then a soft knock echoed through the room. Mrs. Hudson entered once more, holding a stack of freshly brewed tea. "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, your tea is ready." Holmes nodded appreciatively. "Thank you, Mrs. Hudson." As they essayed their tea in contemplative silence, the pieces of the puzzle began to align in Holmes's brilliant mind. Their assignment of Edward Marsh, the encrypted communications, the subtle inconsistencies in his behavior all pointed towards a calculated move by the veiled order to destabilize the Admiralty from within. Watson broke the silence, his voice steady and supportive. "Holmes, whatever the outcome, we're with you every step of the way." Holmes smiled, a rare warmth in his eyes. "Indeed, Watson. Together we will navigate these shadows and bring the perpetrators to light. The Crown relies on our vigilance, and we shall not disappoint." As the night deepened, the detective duo prepared for the challenges. Ahead, their unwavering partnership, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness of conspiracy and deceit. The following morning dawned gray and overcast, the typical London gloom, adding a somber tone to Holmes and Watson's investigation at 221B, Baker Street. The air was thick with anticipation as they pored over the encrypted communications linked to Edward Marsh. The letters, now transcribed and partially decrypted, revealed fragments of conversations that hinted at clandestine meetings and covert operations. Holmes Watson began pointing to a particularly puzzling segment of the decrypted text. This passage mentions a raven at midnight in the abandoned docks near Wooping. It seems Marsh was meeting someone there. Holmes leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he scrutinized the text. "Indeed, Watson, this aligns with our previous findings. The abandoned docks are a known haunt for illicit activities, making it an ideal location for secretive meetings. We must investigate this site discreetly." After a brief discussion, Holmes and Watson made their way to the docks, their steps echoing on the damp cobblestones. The area was desolate, the skeletal remains of old warehouses, casting long shadows in the dim light, the scent of salt water mixed with the mustiness of decay creating an eerie atmosphere. Holmes signaled for Watson to follow silently. As they approached the designated meeting spot hidden behind a stack of crates, they observed Marsh meeting with a shadowy figure cloaked in a dark overcoat. The man's face was obscured by a wide-brimmed hat, concealing his identity. As the meeting concluded, Marsh handed over a small sealed envelope to the stranger. Holmes noted the exchange with meticulous attention. "This confirms the existence of an external collaborator," he whispered. "We need to identify this individual." Watson nodded, his medical training attuning him to the subtleties of human behavior. "But how do we approach this without raising suspicion?" Holmes contemplated for a moment. "Before devising a plan, we must blend in and follow Marsh to his next meeting. There we might uncover the identity of his associate and the true nature of the veiled order's intentions." The two men decided to stake out Marsh's movements over the next few days, meticulously documenting his interactions and patterns. Their surveillance revealed that Marsh frequented a discreet cafe in Covent Garden, a place known for its privacy and low-profile clientele. It was here that they hoped to gain further insights. One evening, cloaked in the anonymity of their disguises, Holmes and Watson entered the cafe. The establishment was modest, with dim lighting and a quiet ambiance. They found a secluded table near the back where Marsh was already seated, engaged in a hushed conversation with another man. Holmes observed the interaction keenly. The second man was older, his features stern and his demeanor authoritative. As the meeting concluded, Marsh rose to leave, casting a final glance at Holmes, who subtly tipped his hat in acknowledgement. Moments after Marsh departed, the older man remained seated alone. Holmes leaned, cross-theatable, his voice low and measured. "Mr. Marsh, a word, if you please." Startled Marsh looked up, recognizing Holmes immediately. Holmes, to what do I owe the pleasure? Holmes smiled slightly, masking his true intentions. A mutual acquaintance mentioned. Your recent activities? I'm merely curious about your involvement with the Veiled Order. Marsh sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. It's not what you think. Holmes' Meyer assignment was part of a larger strategy to integrate within the Admiralty IIC. Planning the Veiled Order seeks to influence our naval operations from the inside, ensuring their agenda aligns with national interests. Watson exchanged a concerned glance with Holmes. Are you implying that the Veiled Order has legitimate goals masked by their threats? Marsh shook his head vehemently. No, their methods are extreme and dangerous. They believe that by controlling our naval strategies, they can steer the nation towards a more stable and secure future. However, their approach disregards the ethical implications and the potential for abuse of power. Holmes nodded thoughtfully. I see, so your role is to counteract their influence from within. Marsh nodded precisely, but their network is extensive, and their infiltration runs deep. We need to expose their key operatives and dismantle their operations before they can implement their plans. Before Holmes could probe further, a commotion erupted outside the cafe. A group of men clad in dark attire stormed in, their eyes scanning the room with malicious intent. Marsh rose, quickly pulling a concealed weapon from his coat back. Men, you won't disrupt our work tonight. Holmes and Watson exchanged a quick glance. Understanding the imminent danger, without hesitation, they sprang into action. Holmes engaged the intruders, with his usual deftness, disarming one and subduing another with swift precision. Watson, utilizing his medical training, deftly restrained the remaining dust settled. Marsh approached them, gratitude evident in his eyes. Thank you, Holmes. Your intervention prevented a significant disruption. The Veiled Order is growing more brazen by the day. Holmes placed a reassuring hand on Marsh's shoulder. We're all in this together, Marsh. Let us work to ensure that their misguided ambitions do not jeopardize our nation's integrity. As they left the cafe, the weight of the investigation pressed heavily upon them. The Veiled Order's reach was more profound than they had initially imagined, and the path to dismantling it would require every ounce of their combined intellect and resolve. Walking through the quiet streets, Holmes turned to Watson. This case is evolving rapidly. Watson, we must stay vigilant and anticipate their next move. The Veiled Order is a formidable adversary, but with determination and strategic thinking we can bring them to justice. Watson nodded, his respect for Holmes deepening with each passing moment. Indeed, Holmes, together we'll navigate these shadows and uncover the truth. As the night enveloped London, the trio moved forward with renewed purpose, their alliance a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness of conspiracy and deceit. The following morning, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson reviewed the information Evelyn Blackwood had provided, their minds racing to piece together the intricate web of the Veiled Order. The dossier she had shared contained detailed maps, communication logs, and profiles of known associates, offering a glimpse into the organization's vast reach. We need to strike at the core of their operations, Holmes declared, mapping a map marked with several key locations. Their main communications hub is located beneath the old Westminster Library. It's heavily guarded, but Blackwood assured us that with careful planning we can infiltrate it. Watson nodded, his medical precision translating into strategic clarity. We should also consider the possibility of insider assistance given the sophistication of their methods. Someone within their ranks might be willing to cooperate. For the right incentive, Holmes's eyes gleamed with agreement. Indeed, Watson Moff has already arranged for discreet surveillance of the Admiralty lower tiers. Any breach or unusual activity will be promptly reported. Meanwhile, we must prepare for our mission tonight. As dusk settled over London, Holmes and Watson donned their dark attire, blending seamlessly into the shadows of the bustling city. Their destination was the Westminster Library, a historic building repurposed to house the Veiled ORD Central Operations. The exterior was unassuming, but Holmes had identified the subtle security enhancements, infrared sensors, and motion detectors that marked its true purpose. Approaching the rear entrance, Holmes signaled for silence. Stay close, Watson. One wrong move and our presence will be compromised. They navigated through the labyrinthine corridors, with practice, avoiding patrols and disabling security measures using Holmes's ingenious gadgets, reaching the communications hub. They found it guarded by two stern sentinels. Holmes swiftly subdued them, with a combination of deft strikes and calculated distractions, ensuring no alarm was raised inside the room. Buzzed with the hum of advanced machinery and encrypted transmissions, Holmes moved to the main terminal, quickly accessing the data streams and extracting critical information about the Veiled Order's plans. Meanwhile, Watson kept watch, his eyes sharp for any signs of interruption. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. "Well done, Mr. Holmes, but your efforts are in vain." Holmes turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows, the enigmatic Raven, tall and imposing. Raven's presence exuded authority and menace. "You cannot stop the inevitable." Raven declared, a sinister smile playing on his lips. Holmes met his gaze, unflinchingly perhaps, but "we will certainly try a tense standoff." Ensued there, thick with anticipation. Before Raven could react, Holmes activated a hidden mechanism, sealing the room and cutting off Raven's escape routes. "Your game ends here, Raven. The Veiled Order's reign of manipulation is over." Raven's eyes flashed with fury, but Holmes remained resolute. "You underestimated our resolve and our ability to dismantle your network from within." As the authorities tipped off by Mycroft stormed the facility, Raven was apprehended, his plans unraveled by Holmes's relentless pursuit of truth. The Veiled ORD operations were swiftly dismantled, their influence exposed to the light of day. Returning to Baker Street, Holmes and Watson shared a moment of quiet triumph. Another case closed. "Holmes," Watson remarked, a hint of relief in his voice. Holmes smiled, the first genuine smile. "In days indeed, Watson, yet the shadows we uncover only deepen our understanding of the complexities that govern our world. Let us remain vigilant, for darkness always seeks to return." As they settled back into their routine, the bond between them fortified by yet another victory. London seemed a little safer, its secrets a little less hidden, thanks to the unwavering dedication of its greatest detective. The morning after the dramatic confrontation at the Westminster Library, London awoke to a city buzzing with news of the takedown of the Veiled Order. Holmes and Watson returned to Baker Street, their steps light. With the satisfaction of a mission accomplished, Mycroft awaited them, his expression one of measured relief, tempered by the gravity of the revelations. "Well done, Holmes," Mycroft began, extending his hand. "Your efforts have not only neutralized the Veiled Order but also exposed vulnerabilities within our own institutions. The documents you secured will be instrumental in preventing future breaches." Holmes accepted the commendation with a modest nod. "It was a collaborative effort, Mycroft. Your timely intelligence and coordination with Inspector Lathard were invaluable." Watson placed a reassuring hand on Holmes's shoulder. "Indeed, without your strategic planning, we might not have succeeded as swiftly." As they settled into their chairs, Mycroft handed Holmes a new folder. "There's another matter that requires your attention. It pertains to historical intelligence operations that may have connections to the Veiled Order's tactics." Holmes opened the folder, revealing a collection of aged documents and photographs. "These records date back to the late 19th century, he mused. "It appears the Veiled Order drew inspiration from previous clandestine groups. Understanding their historical roots could provide deeper insights into their operational methods." Mycroft nodded. "Exactly. There are indications that the Veiled Order strategies are not entirely original, but are adaptations of older, perhaps forgotten intelligence practices. Uncovering these links might help us predict their future moves and prevent similar threats." Holmes leaned back, his mind already weaving connections between past and present. "Watson, we should delve into these archives. There may be patterns or forgotten alliances that could shed light on the current conspiracy." Watson agreed, eager to continue their pursuit of knowledge. "I'll assist you in cataloging and analyzing the documents. Understanding the historical context could be crucial." As the day progressed, Holmes and Watson immersed themselves in the archival materials. They discovered references to a secret society known as the Order of the Serpent, an organization rumored to have influenced significant political events throughout British history. The parallels between the Order of the Serpent and the Veiled Order were striking. Both sought to manipulate governmental policies from the shadows, utilizing a blend of intimidation and strategic alliances. Holmes's eyes sparkled with realization. Watson, it seems the Veiled Order is the modern incarnation of the Order of the Serpent. Their enduring legacy is evident in their methodologies and objectives. This continuity suggests a deeply entrenched ideology that values control and secrecy above all else. Watson nodded thoughtfully. If the Veiled Order is continuing the legacy of the Order of the Serpent, we might be dealing with the remnants of the original group, a revived faction with a shared vision. Their investigation took a personal turn when Holmes uncovered a connection between the Order of the Serpent and a prominent figure from his past, Professor James Moriarty. Although Mycroft had been presumed dead, these documents hinted at his possible survival and continued influence within secretive circles. Mycroft, Holmes said, presenting his findings. It appears that Moriarty's philosophies have permeated the Veiled Order while we assumed he was no longer a threat. His intellectual legacy seems to persist through these clandestine operations. Mycroft frowned, the implications of Holmes's discovery settling heavily upon him. If Moriarty is indeed influencing or even leading the Veiled Order, this changes the nature of our threat. We must proceed with utmost caution. Holmes agreed, his resolve unwavering. We must anticipate their next move by understanding their foundational principles. This historical insight will be our key to dismantling their network entirely. As evening descended, the trio continued their research, the weight of history and the shadow of Moriarty's intellect intertwining with their mission. The path ahead was fraught with complexity, but with each revelation, Holmes and his allies edged closer to unraveling the full extent of the Veiled Order's ambitions. In the quiet of Baker Street, the flickering gas lamps cast long shadows mirroring the enigmatic forces they sought to defeat. Holmes sat back, contemplating the legacy of deception and control that the Veiled Order represented. The past is never truly past. Watson, it echoes into the present, shaping the battles we must fight. Watson offered a steady nod, and with your brilliance, Holmes, we are well equipped to face whatever challenges lie ahead. As the night deepened, the alliance between the brothers and their steadfast companion solidified their combined intellect and determination, forming a formidable shield against the lingering darkness of conspiracy and deceit. The early morning light streamed through the windows. Sherlock Holmes sat at his desk, meticulously reviewing the final pieces of evidence gathered from the Veiled Order's dismantled operations. Dr. John Watson stood nearby, offering a supportive presence, while Mycroft Holmes entered with a sense of accomplishment etched into his features. Mycroft Holmes greeted him, looking up from the documents. It appears we have successfully unraveled the core of the Veiled Order. Their network is decimated, and their plans thwarted. Mycroft nodded, placing a hand on the stack of papers. Indeed, Sherlock, the arrests made at the Westminster Library and the subsequent raid at the Admiralty have significantly weakened their influence. However, there remains one final piece to complete the puzzle: the Raven. Watson stepped forward, curiosity evident in his eyes. What of the Raven was he apprehended during the raids? Holmes leaned back, a thoughtful expression on his face. The Raven was indeed captured, but his true identity remains elusive. The alias masks a deeper connection, one that ties back to the historical roots we uncovered, the Order of the Serpent, and intriguingly to Professor James Moriarty. Moff's eyes narrowed slightly. You suspect more Arctic involvement? Holmes nodded solemnly. The parallels between the Veiled Order and the methodologies of the Order of the Serpent suggests that Moriarty's intellectual legacy persists through these clandestine operations. While we presumed Mycroft was dead, it seems his influence endures, perhaps through protégés or surviving allies. A moment of silence filled the room as the weight of the revelation settled upon them. Mycroft broke the silence, his voice measured. If Moriarty is indeed orchestrating these efforts, it underscores the enduring threat he poses. We must ensure that his influence is entirely eradicated. Holmes stood moving to the window to gaze out over the bustling streets of London. We have dismantled the current threat, but Maury AR's shadow looms large. It is imperative that we remain vigilant, anticipating any resurgence of his schemes. Watson placed a reassuring hand on Holmes's shoulder. Your dedication never ceases to amaze me. Holmes, together we've overcome another, for formidable challenge. Holmes turned to face his friends, a rare warmth in his eyes. Our partnership is indeed our strength, Watson. And with Moff's strategic oversight, we form an unbreakable triad against the forces of deception and corruption. Mycroft approached his demeanor, reflecting both pride and concern. Sherlock, your relentless pursuit of truth safeguards not only individual lives, but the very integrity of our nation. We must continue to support each other, ensuring that no shadow remains unchecked as the day progressed. The trio coordinated with government officials to secure remaining assets of the Veiled Order and implement stricter security measures to prevent future breaches. The collaboration between Holmes, Watson, and Mycroft proved indispensable, each bringing their unique strengths to fortify their defenses against lingering threats. Later that evening, as the sun set over Baker Street, Holmes and Watson reflected on the case's complexities. The legacy of Maury AR's intellect intertwined with the modern-day challenges posed by the Veiled Order, creating a tapestry of intrigue that tested their limits. Holmes mused aloud, the battle against such adversaries is unending. Watson, each victory is but a temporary reprieve, a brief moment of peace before the next storm, yet our resolve must remain steadfast. Watson nodded thoughtfully, and as long as we stand together, there is no challenge we cannot overcome. In the quiet of their shared residence, the bonds of friendship and brotherhood fortified their spirits. As they prepared for the next day, the city around them thrummed with life, unaware of the silent guardians ensuring its safety. The partnership between Sherlock, Mycroft, and Watson stood as a testament to the power of unity and the unwavering pursuit of truth, ready to face whatever mysteries the future might hold. The end.